Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wild Eric podcast. I'm back from Norway. Yes, I was just there for a short amount of time, and actually the background music right now is my friends from Norway. They're called Atmosferd, not Atmosphere, Atmosferd, F-E-R-D, Atmosferd. And they were just a terrific group that I ran into at Victoria's Cafe in Bergen, Norway. And so I'm back now in the States because after about a month there, I kind of, I could have stayed, but I would have been in squalor. And I decided to come back here, get my own place, because the Airbnb host had a problem with me staying up all night. And, just drinking. He thought I had a drinking problem, But anyways, I'm back. I got a new plan. I want to focus on, I ran into some DJs out there. I want to get into DJ music, make my own stuff. And then I want to focus on my film, of course, I'm going to be doing in Las Vegas 2024 called Unasked for Stars. And then I want to focus on just the podcast and then putting out books. So anyway, today on this podcast, it's just going to be me. And let's listen to a little bit of Atmosferd from Bergen, Norway.
Som hon lagade forrige vinter. Kulda slit i hennes skinn, i rovlysten Finnbuls vinter. Tvi som ravnade syng, deg lokker og lurer og kvisker. Tvi sjå i leimen skap, i ravnen sitt øye det spegler. Tvi som ravnene syng, deg lukker og lurer og kviskrer. Tvi sjå i leimen skap, i ravnen sitt øye det spegler. I ravnen sitt øye det spegler. I ravnen sitt øye det spegler.
All right, everybody go to Facebook and check out Atmosferd, A-T-M-O-S-F-E-R-D. Follow them on Facebook. And also on my YouTube channel, under Wild Eric's Traveling Podcast, there's a video of them playing. And so what was Norway like? Well, I could walk right into Bergen from my Airbnb, and immediately joined a gym called the Attic, which was above a convenience store called the Boompress. Boompress is where you go to in Norway, in Bergen. It's kind of a convenience store, but they're open on Sunday. That's like a thing there. Get your alcohol, before 8 o'clock, otherwise you can't get it. But mostly I went there, and believe it or not, I was just stuck in my head because I was going through kind of, not so much depression, but, just being single and having too much time in my hands, and then my podcast gear broke down immediately, and by the time I ordered something to replace it with, I was having problems with the Airbnb host, and I decided to come back here and really just get my own place and focus on these projects to get myself self-sustained by my projects, by the selling of the books and the podcast and, the shirts and everything. So if you would, support the podcast, buy the book. You can go to Amazon.com now, and the book is called Keep Your Inner Child Wild. You can download it for 99 cents on Kindle. It's poetry, it's got all kinds of art in it, and, a couple plays I wrote are in there. And it's really just a fun little book. 99 cents will help me out. And then if you want the Wild Eric's Traveling Podcast shirt done by June Primero with the theater and the theater faces on the hot air balloon, that's really a cool shirt. And they're strong, these guys over at Zazzle. So there's a link in just about every video I'm making these days. But let's see, what else can I show you? So here's some more music from the jam session at Victoria's Cafe. Over there, the beer is called Hansa IPA. If you're in Bergen, you're drinking a Hansa. It's like their local beer. It's pretty good stuff. They have mango, different things like that. This is actually me on piano, and forgot the young lady's name who was the lead singer of Atmospheric. But I also saw an orchestra out there, and let's see what I got here. Oh! Sorry, guys. All right. This is my intro. Now, I can't even pronounce what the band I saw, but there was an orchestra, Kleppe Musiklog, at Håkonshallen. This was March 25th, 2023, Bergen, Norway. This reminds you of Harry Potter, but I saw this live. I really wish I was stoned on hash, which is actually big out there in Norway. Not so much marijuana, but hash. This video is also available on the Wild Eric YouTube. I just love the trumpet. Ever since I saw this episode of The Twilight Zone where Gabriel, the angel, it came down to encourage this man who was a drunk, and he was kicked out of all these jazz bands. And Gabriel's like, hey, don't give up. And it's the only episode of a show, or I don't know, Twilight Zone, where they really just took the time to develop this, to let the horn player, the trumpet player, play for like 45 seconds straight, and it was like one of the most moving pieces I've ever heard. But man, come on, Twilight Zone, Rod Serling, that's one of my favorite shows of all time. I like to ask people when I meet them, I'm like, hey, what are you watching right now? Because I can tell you, when I see something that really touches me, I want to share it with the world. I have recently seen a movie with Joaquin Phoenix, with the director of Midsommar. And this movie is called Beau is Afraid. And man, they're going to be talking about this movie for like the next 25 years. It's going to be an instant classic. So I'm not going to try to spoil it for you or anything like that. But in the movie, Beau, he's a real quiet, nice guy, real reserved, but he's on medications because he has fears and all that. And he gets noticed that his mother has passed away, so he's trying to get to the funeral. But the doctor gives him some pills, and it says, whatever you do, Beau, don't take these pills without water. And so he's in his apartment one day, and he takes the pills, thinking everything's going to be fine, but then the water goes out in the entire apartment. So he starts basically tripping. I mean, you don't even know what's happening. But it's one of those surreal adventures, and on a psychological level, there's a lot of stuff going on about, the desires of life and the things that are slumbering inside of our subconscious, and the fears and the wants and the desires and the issues with mom and dad. And it's a powerful film, and I recommend you see it. It was only in the theater for like 2 weeks, and sometimes the best movies are only in the theater for 2 weeks. The Big Lebowski, I remember telling my brother, hey, we better go see this now, because this is one of those movies, man, I can tell from the preview that it's going to be in the theater 2 weeks and it'll be gone, man. And we were right. And look at it now. Instant classic. Everybody reveres it that way. So I just wanted to tell the world that I'm back. I'm pretty much changing the name right now from the Wild Eric Traveling Podcast to just the Wild Eric Podcast, because, I can't really travel as much as I originally intended. I'm probably just going to go traveling when I have my film ready, when I have my manga ready. And I want to travel with the manga, travel with the DJ stuff, and with my films. And so, like I said, I'm shooting a film next year in Vegas. And maybe I'll make some short stuff here. If you haven't seen my first film, though, on my channel, it's called Wild Eric the Film. And we got some people together out here, my friend Gary and Blaine Ziegler, and we put together a little film. And it is weird. It's cool. Check it out. It's on YouTube right now. If you guys aren't signed up for my YouTube, please subscribe. Also on my TikTok and Instagram, and what else am I on? We're on Spotify, too. You can follow us on Spotify. So the podcast is on YouTube and Spotify. But anyway, so I guess let's talk a little about who are you talking to, who are you listening to. Wild Eric, who is he? I'm from North Carolina, and I moved from New Jersey when I was about 14 or 15. And I've lived here until I was about 30. Then I went over to Las Vegas and lived there about 10 years. And I've just been a hack musician my whole life and just trying to get better and better. And I've got some songs from the old days loaded on my channel. And we can kind of cruise through one right here. I want to show you this disco song that I made a long time ago, kind of in the vein of Depeche Mode. Let's see here. Actually, it might be on my other channel. You can look under ERYK Pendragon on YouTube. And let's see. The Things I Never Told Rose is the song I'm going to play for you right quick. The Things I Never Told Rose. It's kind of like disco, Depeche Mode. By the way, Depeche Mode is touring. And I really want to go see them. They're playing a show in Austin, Texas. So they're playing everywhere. But, it's coming to the end with a lot of these bands. Kiss is on their final tour. And you have, Aerosmith has announced their last tour. Let's see. I can't find that song. But I will play the song Ariel the Mermaid, which is, we probably won't play the whole thing. We're just going to kind of put it in the background and we'll go in and out of it. But this is actually, I had a big Ariel poster in my house. And I love The Little Mermaid. I was raised on the movie. In fact, the new Little Mermaid's coming out, and I'll probably go see that. But this is my Ariel the Mermaid song, available on for free on YouTube. You can download it and tell the world about my musicery. Some people are chefs, and they do chefery. I do musicery. Heavily inspired by Aqua. From Denmark. They did a lot of pop in the 90s, and people know their song Barbie Girl, which actually, if you judge them for that, you're not getting the whole enchilada. Like, if you see all their albums, they're actually very amazing songwriters, and Lean, the singer, is just very gifted. And I'm actually planning on going to see Aqua in New York City. They're finally, after all these years, they're coming to America. I saw them in Canada once, in Ontario. But I believe they're coming to New York, June 26th. And trying to get my friend Rachel Amick, who was on the podcast earlier, to go with me out there. And, found some cheap Airbnbs, and who knows, man? I mean, it's just going to be a great show. And we had some friends. People in Canada are so friendly. We literally were just walking towards the Aqua concert. We bought some marijuana pills. They sell marijuana pills at the anywhere out in Canada. And we met these people out there, Brandon and his girlfriend, and they were such a sweet couple. And every now and then they'll hit us up on Facebook, just like, hey. But I think they might meet us out there. So, just depends on budgeting. I just moved into this new place here, and I'm just trying to get settled in. I had to buy a washer machine because it didn't come with one. My landlord's a sweetheart, though. She's let me forego the first month's rent in order to pay for the washing machine and a lawnmower and all that jazz. This is a big step for me. I'm actually becoming more of an adult because my whole life I've kind of had roommates. And the experience in Norway when my Airbnb host was scolding me like a child for being the bastard I am and staying up all night chopping vegetables and making tacos. I just said, hey, I don't want to live like this anymore. I should have got an Airbnb that was just, a single, just myself. But I wanted to save money. So he was from Brazil. Oh, excuse me, no, he was from Argentina. And every day he's like, Eric, you must drink the mota. Well, not mota, it was called mate. And mate is like it's a kind of a ritual drink that they drink in Argentina. It's kind of like ayahuasca without the tripping factor. It's a bunch of herbs and they put boiling water in it. It's kind of like tea. But they say that they drink mate in all situations, you know? They wake up, mate. They broke up with their girlfriend, mate. Everything's mate over there. Which I thought was funny because in the movie Bloodsport, when Van Damme is about to break Chun Li's neck, the word for stop or wait, the word for wait in Japanese is mate. So, you're learning Japanese on the podcast today, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. This is not going to be a very long podcast because really I'm just trying to welcome myself back. This is officially season F2 of the Wild Eric podcast. And all my friends who have supported me, I want to thank you. You know who you are. Franz, Elaine Ziegler, Gary, Startulius, all my friends out there. I really want to have a lot of my friends on the podcast. I had, Kat was on it. I want to have Roseman on it. Everybody should have a real close Jewish friend because the Jewish people, they've got such a great sense of humor. And Dave Roseman was my my next door neighbor when I was about 15 years old. And he just introduced himself. He said, "Hey, I'm the only cool person on this block." And he used to troll me back in the day because, I grew up a big Christian. And he said to me, he used to mess with me and say, "Hey, Eric, come over to my house because I want to introduce you to this new Christian band. Yeah, they're called Ministry." But it was a special time and place back then, back in the 90s where, you still had video stores. We would go to the video stores, and I remember it was a big impact on my life because anime was not called anime back then. It was called Japanimation. And I remember Dave would get on to me because I would call it Jap animation. He's like, "Listen, it's not Jap animation, you racist. It's Japanimation." What you're hearing in the background now is a song I recorded in Austin, Texas with Aaron Kim Karen of Red Silo Studios. But I kind of have just been a gypsy my whole life, as much as possible. Haven't had my own place since I was 27. Now I'm 43, and I feel like I'm finally growing up. But in a way, this is going to enable me to be the ultimate child because once I have the product, you got to have your products. It doesn't matter who you are. You got to sell something. Otherwise, you're going to be selling something else for someone else. I heard Jim Rohn put it this way. Jim Rohn said, either you use your brain or someone else will use it for their purposes, And that's something we have to remember. This is a motivational podcast as well as a podcast about the madness going on inside my mind. My friend Brandon, he's an artist in Austin, Texas, and he goes by the handle Black Magic Cyborg, and he performs noise music out there, keyboards and all kinds of doodads going off at the same time, making an atmosphere of mind-boggling stuff. But what Brandon Lynch said, I believe that's his name, he said, being an artist is constantly having one great idea interrupt another. And I have to agree with him because, if I don't put the braces on myself, I will just go off the wall with all kinds of crazy ideas. So I would recommend to you, if you're listening today, get a notepad out there, get order in your life, listen to Tony Robbins, listen to Jim Rohn, and really just focus because life, in the words of Ferris Bueller, life moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. But let me paraphrase that. Life moves fast, and you could miss it. You can miss the development of yourself. If without self-discovery, you don't have the total equation. You're just kind of a leaf in the wind, and you won't be able to make much sense to your life until you discover who you are. It doesn't even matter where you go. If you're not truly in touch with yourself and what you really need, I don't regret going to Norway and Bergen and all that. That was a good time. I met some fabulous people out there. The first person I met out there was a film director named Chell, and he was just a super guy. He's going to be on the podcast. He's a filmmaker. He's going to film out there. You've got to see this thing, okay? This is a guy who's a film master, but his issue is he is having issues marketing and making money off his films. He's dealing with that. But check out his film. I believe it's available on Amazon, and we'll get him on to find out more. But it's called Entombed. So let's see. Let's put that preview on. Entombed on YouTube. Just type in Entombed and Entombed movie. Let's see. Movie. Entombed movie. Here it is. Okay. Watch with Screambox. So it's actually available on different formats. But here's the Entombed trailer. It's not just a zombie movie. You've got... This is real thespians, real acting, and the story is amazing. But it does take place in an apocalypse, and they get entombed in a bomb shelter. And the interplay between the two characters, one is... Well, they're just trying to survive, but it just turns into a theater play once they're in that bomb shelter. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Cloverfield, a little bit, the second one with John Goodman. But you can go to YouTube right now, Entombed Trailer 2020, 3 survivors. And you've got a beautiful woman, and you've got 2 amazing actors. They must find a way to survive each other. But anyways, we watched it. It was fantastic, and Chell brought me over to his... he teaches at a film school out there, and he brought me into the classroom, and we watched it on the screen there, and it was fantastic. And he gave me a coffee or a cocoa or something in this cup. And that's one thing about Norway. You've ran into all kinds of cool little gadgets out there. And there was this cup that you couldn't knock over. There's something about the balance in it that if you tried to knock it over, it just would kind of... it was balanced in a way that it kind of clung to the table. But there was so many inventions out there, and it's funny, you travel and you see the inventions they have, but you remember, those inventions aren't being used in the United States, and you can kind of take those ideas, bring them back to the U.S., and maybe make some money. I thought about doing that. So that is that's something that's possible. Got to stay open-minded. But what else could I talk about here? What am I doing lately with sci-fi? So I am currently reviewing Star Trek Voyager. I find that, if you watch an entire series, but you haven't seen it in a few years, you can go back and it's almost like a different thing because you haven't seen it in so long. But Star Trek Voyager is worth visiting. My friend and I are huge Trekkies. Danny Ballard in Vegas, and we were just talking about the totality of all that. And what I find is the best Star Treks ever made are probably Star Trek TNG and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Now, there's nothing that compares with the original, of course, that started it all. But the one I return to back again and again is TNG and DS9. But I think that Star Trek has not... Really, the last great Star Trek was Star Trek Voyager in the 90s. And then you had Enterprise after that wasn't that good. And then after that, you had, I think, the best thing after that. It wasn't Abrams, but recently they made Star Trek Prodigy on Nickelodeon, I think. It's animation, but I really think that's written the best. Although, a close second would be Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the Christopher Pike story, basically, on the original Enterprise. It's pretty good. I'm expecting season 2 to be fantastic. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but let's just put it this way: there's someone who dies that should not have died, and that's what I'll leave it at that. Anyways, so what else can be said about life right now? Well, tonight, I guess I'm going to be ending this podcast here, but tonight, what I intend to do after this podcast is I'm going to go and do the finishing touches on my play that I'm working on. And let's see. And maybe get back into the realm of music. Let's see, what can we exit here on? How about Over the Rainbow? I did a cover of Over the Rainbow, and it actually fuses into favorite things. Spoiler alert. Eric Pendragon was my old name in Austin. I just go by Wild Eric now. I like to change my name every few years, so the stalkers can't keep up. Eric Pendragon, Over the Rainbow. I just love Judy Garland. When I was a kid, I was with my brother. We were watching Wizard of Oz because I watched it every November. My mom would let me stay up late and watch it. And I just fell in love with Judy Garland. I don't know what it was. You know, being a young kid and her voice and just how she laughs. And, man, I fell hard for a lot of celebrities, actually. But Judy Garland was one of my first crushes. And my brother knew it, and he said, "You know she's dead, right? You love the dead." Anyway, it's true. She is dead, and I did love her. But to this day, I still go a little nuts about Judy. I'm going through a lot of her old movies. I highly recommend one called The Clock, in which she meets a veteran in like a train station or something, and they go on this romantic midnight date where they end up taking over a milk truck and delivering milk for the night. It's really weird. Kind of reminded me of a David Lynch movie a little bit. It's called The Clock, Judy Garland. But this is my cover of Over the Rainbow. Let's see if I can get a little... We don't want to miss the intro. Kick it! Somewhere over the rainbow, dreams come true, or skies are blue, and the dreams you dare to dream really do come true. And that's actually part of the lyrics. Because, you know, Elvis had a song, without a dream, what are we? You know? You have to be able to dream and believe that you can achieve something. Because otherwise, you're just living this... You're just getting through the day instead of getting from the day. And we should learn to not just get through the day, but get from the day. And we really have to. We're naturally like a weed. We have to really train ourselves. And I guess life's not all ambition. You should learn to enjoy the beauty in every day. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. And is anybody out there single? Let me tell you, I am single. I have been single pretty much my entire life. I'm one of those people. You ever meet those people that no matter what, they're always in a relationship? Well, I am the exact opposite. I usually date people for about... Well, when I do date people, I date them for like a month, and I realize I'm not in love, and I just let it go. And my longest relationship was like, what, 9? No, it was a year. But that was kind of because I was forced to do it. But anyway, so my heart goes out to people who are mentally weirdos like myself and haven't been able to find anyone. You know, these dating apps, I've got like 5 dating apps, and no luck with any of them. Well, I went on one date on the dating app Upward, which is a Christian dating app. All the rest of them are secular, but we went on a date. It was nice. She was a nice girl and loved the Lord, and, you know, fantastic person. But, you know, you can't just fall in love with anybody. Who understands attraction? You know, it's a mystery. But I definitely don't want to date anybody that has mega issues. But sometimes those people are the most fun. You know, I don't know. So, what is the solution there? You know, I used to think that I'd be in a relationship by now, but it just didn't happen. You know, I've been all over. I've lived all over. Last girl I dated, she slept with a machete to the side of her, and I was in bed with her, and she's like, "Well, you really got to trust me if you're sleeping with me without a machete next to me." Great girl. Made a lot of money. She had to be in control at all times, though, and then she loved going to the bar every night. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just I'm not like a bar every night kind of guy. So But I do love alcohol. Corona is my favorite beer. That's not too sophisticated, but I'm working on it. And I gotta tell you, my cousin and I lately have been drinking Terramana tequila and also George Clooney's tequila, Casamigos. And my friends, if you haven't tried those things, you got to. You got to. But anyways, let me leave you with a word of encouragement. That you got to believe it can get better. You got to believe it can get better. And whether you know it or not, you're getting better because you have, I heard Jim Rohn say this once, the value of the past is how we invest it in the future. So every day you can look back, and that's what makes us different than animals. You know, we can, Michio Kaku on the Joe Rogan podcast recently said that's what makes us different than the animals. We can, our brains are like time machines. We know the difference between yesterday, tomorrow, and we can dream of what can be. And you need to just make sure you're always putting mental food in there. You know, listen to Tony Robbins, David Goggins. David Goggins, I love what he says. He says, every day you got to say no to the inner bitch. That voice that says, you don't have to work out today. You know. So I'll go out on this, that I've been trying to eat better. And I have found that eating seaweed, in these little, it's really cheap too. It helps satiate those cravings, you know. And it's only 30 calories per pack. I mean, you can eat like 3 packs of these seaweeds, and, you know, that's 90 calories, you know. And also, seaweed has a lot of vitamins in it, supposedly. But you don't want to go too crazy, because I heard it also has some Fukushima radiation in it if you're not careful, getting it from the wrong source. So, yeah, whatever struggle you're going through, let me end with a word of prayer here. Now, listen, if you're not a Christian or whatever, you can just turn off the podcast. But I'm going to pray anyway. I'm going to pray for anybody listening right now. I pray that the Lord meets every need. And I'm not trying to get political or tell you what to do or, you know, what God to believe in. I personally believe in Jesus Christ. And so I'm saying a prayer to my God for you. You know, if you don't have a God or you don't believe in God, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just sending out a message of love. So, Lord, I pray in Jesus' name that anybody who listens to this would be blessed, and that you would have your love go on out to them, and they would be comforted, and they would gird themselves up and go do some cool stuff in the world. And the coolest thing you can do is love your neighbor as yourself. Doesn't matter what they look like, who they are. Just love people, you know, the best you can, you know. So, all right, that's the end of this one for now. I am back. The Wild Eric podcast is back, baby. So turn in soon. We're going to have probably Blaine Ziegler back. We're going to also have Jack Murdoch, a magician. And also we're going to have my friend Scott, who is he's just the authority on G.I. Joe and Transformers. This guy knows everything, man. So it's fascinating, because last time we tried to do the podcast, he told me about the Transformers stopped in the United States in the 80s, but it kept going in Japan for like 10 years. So there's all these Japanese Optimus Prime stories where he's just kicking ass, man, in Japanese. So, all right. In the words of Jim Morrison, this is the end.